Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Unlock the Middle's Middle Marvel segment, where we recognize excellence in the classroom from all around the country and perhaps around the world. My name is Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. And alongside of me, I have my co-host, my good friend, and my partner in crime, Principal Chris Starcheski of Dudley Middle School in Dudley, Massachusetts. Tonight's program will be streamed live on YouTube. It will be streamed live on Facebook, Periscope, and Twitter. If you could, we'd love you to chime in the early sessions of our show and tell us who you are and where you are watching from. You can do that in the live comment section that we have. Chris, how are you tonight? You know, Middle Marvels to me is one of the beacons and one of the pinnacles of things that we do all the time to recognize unbelievable educators in the field of middle level education.
Yeah, Dean, I get pretty fired up on Tuesday nights because we're in middle schools all day long, and we get to know what works in our buildings. We get to see how educators work and how they have their game set up to go to the next level. This affords us with the opportunity to talk with educators from around the country, possibly the world, and go ahead and understand a little bit more about what makes them tick, what makes their application of practice possible and outstanding, and it allows us to bring back information to our teams to take their games to the next level. I'm pretty fired up. It's been a good week so far. Granted, it's only Tuesday night, a little bit ahead before we get to that holiday break. But yeah, I'm pretty excellent tonight.
Well, like I said, give a shout out for who you are, where you're from, where you're watching us from. That'd be great in the comment section if you could. But again, Middle Marvels is something, Chris, I have an opportunity to take away something from everybody we've spoken to. Yep. Last week, we were with Becky Rupnick, if you remember, and she was in River Grove, Illinois. And today we jump in that car. We head out west to the great state of California, our first Middle Marvel from California. That's a huge state, Chris. I think there's a lot of Middle Marvels out there, but we're going to start off in Southern California tonight, and we're going to tap into what we think is one individual who has a lot to offer for her school, her district, and her community.
Well, hey, Dean, why don't we go ahead and get this show started? Let me go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. Why don't you bring her into the room, get our banner up so everybody knows who she is, how to follow her on Twitter, and get involved. Miss Stephanie Andino is a middle school physical education teacher in Chino Hills, California. She's committed to helping youth find their red rubber ball. I love that. That's so cool.
That is cool.
One of her biggest passions is to help students morph their red rubber ball with learning experiences, ultimately ending up with activities that they love to do and keep them moving for a lifetime. Stephanie was previously a co-host for the Shape America podcast and currently is a committee member for the K-8 Elementary Physical Education Workshop. She's a teacher leader for Health and Physical Education Collaborative and a hashtag ESPE chat moderator. She's a lifelong learner that loves to reflect, grow, and connect with others in the online education community. Stephanie Sandino, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well. Chris and Dean, thanks so much for having me on. So much love for all of you from California all the way to you all in the East Coast. We're trying to push our weather over there to you, but I'm doing well.
Well, we wish you would. We have an impending snowstorm coming in with about 12 inches minimal. So a little of that California sunshine would do us just great. So Stephanie, you're at number 24, Middle Marvel number 24. We've had a great road and track record of talking just to amazing middle school educators. And you're no different tonight. You know, we were able to find you and we really love what you stand for. But why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and where you're from, and give us a little lowdown about your district and school.
Sure. My name is Stephanie Sandino. I am from Southern California, born and raised. I teach in Chino Hills, California, in a middle school called Robert O. Townsend Junior High School, part of the Chino Valley Unified School District. We are currently undertaking our school year as distance learning right now, just kind of waiting to see if we go into blended or not. For myself, I'm not going to see my kids in person, whether we go into blended or not. I'm going to be a distance learning teacher all year long. So I was put in a pool where we're taking care of the kiddos that are choosing not to go into hybrid learning at all this year. So they're opting out. And I'm teaching students from all 7 middle school sites at my district. So I don't necessarily see my kiddos that I got last year. I think I have maybe 2 of them this year. So I'm seeing just a completely brand new set of kids in 7th and 8th grade this year. So it's an interesting year, but we're rolling with their punches, and we are pushing our phys ed forward, just trying to move and shake things up with the kids.
How's that online working for you in the phys ed world? I mean, that's tough. I mean, you're used to being in a gymnasium with kids where you can get them in a structured environment and go, but now you got them at home. I mean, what does a gym class look like through that computer?
Yeah, actually in California, you're going to be teaching 99% outside, no gyms. So it's a definitely completely different ball game. I'm trying to get them up and moving from the get-go, trying to do some warm-ups with them, moving them into independent movement time. And as far as equipment, it's really anything you have available and accessible with you. Anything from balled up pair of socks, pieces of paper, just our bodies using body weight. So it's different. It's been tough to recreate the material that I had for in-person learning outside to now transferring that over to that digital space. So, I find myself making slides, Google Slides all the time with my intro slide, making sure everybody comes in, muting their mic, turning their cameras on, making sure that they know we're going to begin as promptly as they can. They're hearing the music of their choice. So it's kind of like our class mixtape. So they come in and they hear their class mixtape from the song that they may have submitted through a form. They're talking about, they're also kind of waiting for roll, seeing what's up with the class. And then we move into our what, why, how, what's going on for today, what's the agenda, why are we learning it? Sometimes they come up with the why, and how will they know that they've learned today? And we're steamrolling all the way through with some movement, with some cognitive pieces here and there, and wrapping it up at the end with a mindful minute, whether that's, a GIF of inhaling and exhaling, different breathing exercises to little mini videos from Headspace, just to kind of tone it back down and focus on themselves for just 60 seconds. So it's a lot of everything. I've been able to learn a lot of tricks here and there. So it's a big learning experience. And I think a silver lining is I'm learning so many more tools for my craft and my practice, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm picturing our phys ed and our health teachers, our wellness educators, who are doing the same thing. And when we think about use and application of technology for instruction and delivery, you think sometimes the core. The math, ELA, science, and social studies. It's a heck of a lot easier to throw something up on the InFocus and share with the kids and go. Physical education and wellness is about connectivity. It's about observation. It's about, replication, and then go ahead and get active. That must have been a real significant change for you, as we heard. But what are some of the big challenges that you overcame in your instructional practice, with this, that you feel might be able to be carried on when we get back to this, return to normalcy?
Goodness, it's like I mentioned, it's that recreating piece with my slides, with adding in some more components, like using Flipgrid, like using Google Classroom, using Padlet, using this, using that. So I feel like I have more tools under my belt. I know, we had a project this past trimester where the kids were learning about the 5 health related components of fitness. So they were learning about the cardio. They were learning about muscular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, body composition. And then we went into the FIT principle, the overload principle, and we were going into SMART goals. So with SMART goals, then kids had the choice, or they had the opportunity to own it. They chose their own SMART goal that they wanted to work on for X amount of weeks. And that's when I pushed in the fitness log so that they could keep track and progress of what was going on with their practice. Am I practicing every week? My goodness, I'm not even putting enough time to practice this. And at the end, I hit them with oh, don't forget, you got to collect evidence on your SMART goal, because I want to see what you've done in these past few weeks. So, to culminate it, they came up with their own SMART goal, and then we used Flipgrid to introduce the SMART goal. What were they doing? How many times a week were they doing it? What was their intensity using RPE, the rate of perceived exertion? How much time did they spend on it? And what was the type? Could they then grasp that information that we had learned? Was it cardio that they were working on? Was it muscular endurance? Was it flexibility? What were you working on? Did you grasp that concept that we learned? And then they showed the class their evidence. Hey, I had a kid who showed us that he unicycled for a mile. That was stinking awesome. So things like that, I definitely want to now bring into the learning when I get back to in person. I have so much more to bring back, and trying to develop a fitness log that has multimedia aspects to it. So I haven't done this yet, but I'm really trying to put this in the works. So I got this from another educator here in California who they got it from someone in China. So it's like this snowball effect where they're using Padlet to have kids log in their physical, their cognitive, their reflection about the week. So they're adding pictures, they're adding videos of what they're doing. It's not just something that they write down, it's something that they're showing. Okay. So that's different, right? You can anybody can write down, oh yeah, I just biked for 30 minutes. But actually putting in multimedia on your fitness log and, writing down things like what you're doing for yourself on the mental side. Are you reading a book? Are you, are you writing in your journal? Are you listening to music? What are you listening to? Social aspect. Are you having dinner with your family members? Are you having a conversation during dinner? Are you helping out with dinner? Are you cooking dinner? What are you doing? So that social aspect, that's so important right now. So that's something I want to bring into the next trimester, but also, again, bring it into my teaching in person. So all these things I'm like learning, I'm like, oh, I can do this in person for sure. It's just those added tools in the toolbox to just transition over to in person.
What are you doing?
Man, I'm fired up.
Hey, wait a second.
Awesome.
What are you doing to my kickball game that I used to play when I was in middle school? And all of a sudden, you're talking about formative assessment, portfolios, and PE.
Yes.
You're talking about, rigor, and you've got cognitive aspects of learning and PE. My gosh, it's been a whole transformative change. I love it. I think it's important. And I think it adds value to every student's life, because you know what? Movement, if you're not moving, you're not exercising, you don't feel healthy, you don't learn. I mean, you need that blood to pump. So thinking about that for a second, and it sounds like when I'm just listening to you, with everything that you're doing, you're on the cutting edge of something pretty special when it comes to selling your curriculum. Because kids, I mean, in a lot of schools, we don't have recess, okay? PE becomes that recess. And unfortunately, they don't. Yes, you do. And I know that because you have an outdoor patio and we don't. I'm rubbing that in. But going back to that, kids need that time as that sensory break, and they need to use that 40 minutes to really get going. So talk to me a second, and you just did a little bit, which I really was impressed by, but how do you incorporate real life lessons into what you do? Because that's ultimately important, because that creates buy-in for kids.
Right. And you definitely mentioned something important, which kind of leads into another challenge, right? Which was teaching others about what quality PE looks like, not just our students, but our parents, our admin, and our colleagues. So making sure that they know what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like to to really immerse yourself in quality physical education. It's not your roll out the ball type thing anymore.
Mine. I used to love that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Okay. I don't know. I mean, gym, if I could take gym all day long every day, I would. I would have been a straight A student, Mr. Starcheski. I'm telling you right now.
I would have been too.
This is phys ed, so
Yeah.
I definitely emphasize the educational piece of what phys ed is: physical education. So it's really important for us to really hone in that it's not just physical, it's cognitive, and it's affective. We have 3 domains. We teach in those 3 domains. And to follow up with your question, how I then incorporate these real life lessons in my practice is through my what, why, how. I always start with that what, why, how. What are we learning? Why are we learning it? Whether it comes from me telling my kiddos why it's so important to learn this, or they develop that on their own. I know I've been using Jamboard to try and have them really own that why. I might throw up a picture, I might throw up a focus question for the day, and they really have to make sure that they're actively participating. They're throwing up examples. As they're throwing up examples, I'm like vigorously on Jamboard trying to make sure I write down all of the things they're saying. I'm looking for pictures I'm putting in the Jamboard so that they can visually see, why is this so important? Why is agility important in our lives? Why is reaction time important in our lives? And not just in physical activities, but in our daily activities as well, our everyday lives, which they're so immersed in right now because they're at home. So that what, why, how is super important. And we're using, materials around us. This is like real life stuff. What would happen when, you grow up and you don't have a PE teacher anymore, you don't have a gym, you just have you, yourself, and you at home with nothing. You're like, okay, so how do I keep myself active? How do I, how am I my own little personal trainer? How am I my own little nutritionist now? So they're using what's available around them. Like, okay, well, I can use a softball to work on reaction time. I can use pieces of paper and make it an agility ladder, which we just did the other day. And this all goes into finding the red rubber ball, right, which I mentioned in my bio. So we're working on, and this comes from a book from Kevin Carroll, The Rules of the Red Rubber Ball. Really short read, but it's amazing. It's on my bedside every day. If I'm having a down day, I'll pick the book and read it in like 20 minutes, and I'm like fired up. I'm like, yeah, let's do this for tomorrow. So what it is at the beginning of life, everyone starts off with their red rubber ball. It's a staple equipment, in the elementary school. And so we carry this red rubber ball, and through life's experiences, through us finding out what we like, what we dislike, this red rubber ball begins to transform. It begins to morph. For me, it was a soccer ball for the longest time. And as time went on, I played ASO. I played high school. I played college ball. I played a little bit of semi-pro in Colorado. And then, Colorado, playing semi-pro, you can't make any money. So then I'm like, okay, I gotta go do something. I gotta put my big girl pants on. So I got my credential for phys ed, and I had a bum knee. So it turned into group exercise classes, and it turned into a running shoe because that's what I had available. I couldn't play soccer anymore. I have a bum knee. Now what else do I have? And kids can turn their red rubber ball into anything they want. It could be a volleyball, a baseball, a football. It can be a yoga mat. It can be a hiking shoe. It can be a swim cap. It can be a bike, a skateboard. It can go horseback riding. Whatever it is that they want to do, it's going to morph, and it's going to morph with them for a lifetime. Think about it. When we grow up or when we're getting older, we might not be able to do the things we loved anymore. So it's got to morph again. It might turn into a walking shoe. It might turn into, a chair for chair workouts. It might turn into different things, but ultimately it's something that we love to do. And if we don't love it, then it's not going to stay with us for a long time. If we don't like to run, we're not going to be successful runners, because we're going to get into I'm going to run for a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, but I don't want to run anymore. And it's just going to fall away. So I always challenge my kids to find something that they love to do so that they can pursue it for a lifetime.
Yep.
And that really comes out in my lessons when there's choice. And like I mentioned, my SMART goals, they had ownership of that SMART goal. It was something that they had available to them. It was something that they liked to do. It was something that they wanted to improve on. And it was real life, because guess what? That's all we have right now. Right now we have stay-at-home orders. We're in quarantine. So that comes across through my lessons for sure. And
I love
awesome
your idea.
Stuff.
I loved your idea of SMART goals as a quick formative assessment for overall understanding from a PE standpoint. Love it. I think that is a great thing to dig into.
You know what? I'm listening. Anybody out there who's listening, feel free to chime in the comments. Ask us any questions that you have. Ask Stephanie some questions. Tremendous physical educator, wellness educator from California. Let us know where you're from as well. We'd love to be able to see our reach and our audience. But, Stephanie, as we're sitting here listening to this, I'm thinking, standards-based education at a very high level. I'm thinking lifelong learners. I'm thinking taking practical application and applying it in a real formative way, a real informative experience to help better lives and help instill practices that help everyone, feed their heart, feed their soul, and feed their mind through your instruction. Kudos to you for having such a strong focus on developing and cultivating young minds into these lifelong wellness folks. It's tremendous to hear the energy. Let's turn the table just a shade, though, and let's talk about that classroom experience that you have with the kids. What's a teaching moment that's stuck with you, that's really influenced your movement forward, or that may have really shaped who you are as an educator?
Goodness, there's so many moments, and I think I'm going to go with something that happened recently, just because it's so fresh in my mind. And it's something that happened during distance learning that has kind of, made an impact on myself. So right now, my colleagues are in a different, I guess, cohort, you can say. They're going to go, if we go back to blended, they're going to go back in person and teach that blended learning students. So I'm also taking in information so that I can maybe push it out to my department and my colleagues when I get back with them next year. So I had this student in one of my periods this year, and in the comments, and this was so crazy, in the chat box, he wrote that this curriculum that we were immersing ourselves in should be carried over to in-person learning, because it was more cognitive. He was learning concepts that would keep him healthy. It wasn't just push-ups just because. It wasn't just curl-ups just because. And this particular student, I guess his experience in the past year, was the push-ups, was the curl-ups, was running the mile every Friday. It was so much more to him. And he wrote that in the chat box. And I chuckled, because he even wrote curriculum, and it was very well stated. And unfortunately, I should have gotten a snapshot of it. And before I knew it, I had exited out of the chat box. I'm like, dang it. But it was one of those things where I'm like, he's right. All of these concepts that we're learning, everything from reaction time, helping not only you in a sport, but you as a person, reaction time, you're touching something hot, take your hand away from that. You hear a siren, what's going around me? Do I have to react to it in a certain way? That was just why don't more departments in our district really hone in on the cognitive piece in our practice? You know, it's not just about running the mile on Friday just because. It's more than that. Okay, it's so much more. It's, you know, learning about the concepts that can help us keep us safe and active for the rest of our lives. We're in a pandemic. How do we keep ourselves active? So it was one of those things. I'm like, oh my goodness, this 8th grader, he's like wisdom beyond his years, and it's definitely something that, although I've always carried it along with me, I definitely want to push this out to my team. And right now we have a shared drive, and although we're not teaching the same thing right now, because they're kind of, you know, doing the whole tiptoe back and forth. Are we going to blend it or are we not? Should we stay in this little, like, you know, weird zone where we're not quite sure? We have to maybe shift gears. So they're kind of floating in this weird state where I'm just like steamrolling right through. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the year because I have these kids for the rest of the year. So I'm not, you know, kind of gearing up for both ends. And so I'm sharing all this. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is something that we should implement next year. So it's definitely an eye-opening thing that this 8th grader just, you know, threw in the chat box one day. I'm like, yeah. This is
awesome.
a game changer.
Well, you know what, the fact that a middle school student can influence kind of the focus of your practice moving forward tells me a heck of a lot about how reflective a practitioner you are and how much of a listener you are to your direct audience. Kudos to you, Stephanie. That's outstanding.
I want to say thanks for Brandon reaching out from Missouri and chiming in here. And also Claudette from Dudley, Massachusetts. Thanks for reaching out as well. I'm sure both have something to do with teaching and, more importantly, maybe PE or health. But, you know, what I see right now is, you know, all of us as educators, something excites us about our job. There's something that drives us each and every day to be our very best. And I can hear it in your voice, Stephanie. You've got that, what I consider from an instructional leader, the it factor. It's that mojo. Yeah. It's how you walk. It's how you sell your content. Tell us, what does really excite you most about what you do? Is it that connecting with kids? Is it watching them reach a goal? What is it?
Simply put, I get to wake up every morning and share my passion about those things every morning. Yeah. And I know it's tough times right now, and we're all exhausted, from teachers to admin to students to parents. We're tired. It's a tough gig right now. But I mean, even driving home, and you guys said it, I am a reflective person. Every day I have this reflection book on my desk, and I reflect on what happens every period, everything from what I did to what I could have done to something a student did. Maybe I have to give them a little more TLC the next day. Maybe it's a behavior issue that I could have handled better, or maybe it's something that I did that I was like, ooh, okay, so maybe I need to do something different. So today, you know, driving home, I was trying to think about the silver linings of where we're at right now, and I still get to help my students find their red rubber ball, no matter, hands down.
It's hard. It's just so hard. And you're absolutely correct. And to be able to keep that reflective practice within yourself, kudos to you, because you don't grow if you don't stop and reflect. And that's for all of us, whether we're administrators, whether we're teachers, whether we're cafeteria workers, custodians, we all have to have that growth mindset. So kudos to you, especially within 8 years of your career, still thinking about it every day. Because I'm going to tell you a little bit about yourself. In 20 years, when you're still doing this, you're still going to reflect, because you won't be doing what you're doing successfully if you don't. And don't ever forget that, because you're on that trajectory right now. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, you know, Stephanie, I'm listening to you talk, and you're new in the career. I mean, 8 years in, right? But you're a veteran. You've got it. Dean mentioned the it factor. As I sit down and think about, what we want to look for in our young and developing educators, I'm hopeful that they're going to have really good, solid mentors that surround them. There's a story about, marigolds versus walnut trees, and you're without a doubt a marigold. So as you sit down and think about young educators who are coming into the field today, if you were to sit down and have a conversation with someone, either someone going into the wellness area and physical education, or any portion of education, what's the one big tidbit of advice that Stephanie Sandino is giving to these young educators, and how is she going to influence that practice?
God, just don't be afraid to fail, right? We've had that, we know that cliche acronym, FAIL, frequent attempts in learning. Don't be afraid to fail and make mistakes. I know during my student teaching, which I remember like it happened yesterday, getting out there, just experimenting with your craft and the things that you learn from your cooperating teacher, and from hopefully professional development. I wish someone had told me when I was still in college to go to my state organization conference. I think I took that for granted.
You mean leave the classroom and get out there and experience things that make you grow? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I reject that. What a concept. Yes. Thank you. Go. I'm sorry for just interjecting.
No worries. Yeah. I don't know that I knew the value of, it's capered here, until I got out of my student teaching and into my field and met my colleagues through my master's program. And I wish I did, because I feel like that would have given me a step up into what I was getting into. And I knew right away this was a profession that I wanted to get into. At first, I was on the course of as a physical trainer or a personal trainer. And very soon I found out that I can do that without a degree. I just needed to take a test. I needed to be a certain age, and that was that. It wasn't until I was sitting in my intro to professions and kinesiology class where all of a sudden, a couple weeks into it, the pedagogy crew came in. The professors from pedagogy came in. They were telling their stories at that very instant in that very chair. The light bulb went off, and I was like, that's what you need to do. Very next day, I walked into my department head's office and I was like, I want to change from exercise science to pedagogy. And that was it. That was it.
Love it.
And when I did that, I was like, and I took my first activities course. I was like, yep, this is right. This is it. I'm in it. And so, again, professional development, getting connected. Okay, that kind of goes hand in hand with professional development. When I was in a chair in my master's program, I was sitting next to an elementary teacher. He is now the SHAPE America National Elementary Teacher of the Year. A couple years ago, Matt Bassett. And little did he know, I had observed him as one of my first pedagogy classes, and I was like, oh, I know you. You did this, this, and this when I observed you in your class. And it all snowballed from there. He introduced me to Twitter. I got connected with all of these educators. Yeah. It was kind of like a tiptoe thing, like, okay, like what's going on with Twitter? I thought you needed to be famous for this thing. And
I'll tell you that you don't have to be famous. So.
No, you don't. It's like, no. So #PhysEd. And so once I got into the hashtag, I was looking at things, I was soaking them in. And then I got into like, okay, so maybe I can share some of the things that I'm doing in my classroom. Yep. And then, that starts to call in attention, and people start commenting, or you start commenting back like, hey, I saw you do this lesson on your post. Do you mind sharing your resource? And so it just kind of just keeps going. From the Twitter community, and you start finding your marigolds. Okay. That was on my note card. I love Jennifer Gonzalez. I love that post. Yeah. It's like it's saved, it's bookmarked. So you find your marigolds, whether you're in your online community or your campus, finding those like-minded people that are going to push you up or raise you up. Okay, it's all about raising each other up. We are better together.
Yeah.
And finding, your kind of home with them. And the walnuts being, maybe your naysayers, maybe some teachers that, have been in it for a while.
Not there yet, we call them. Not there yet.
Not there yet, and having an ear out for them, but really being raised up by your marigolds. And I definitely found my marigolds on some of my campuses, but most importantly in my online phys ed community. Goodness gracious, I don't know where I would be without the phys ed community. They have pushed me beyond words. They've pushed me to present at conferences, which is something I never thought I would do. They've pushed me to, fall into podcasting.
Yes.
Never in a million years would I have thought that I'd be sitting as a podcast co-host for the National Organization for Physical Education and Health. So it opens up so many doors, but most importantly, they help you reflect. They help you get better in your practice. And in turn, you touch, it's like a ripple effect, right? You touch so many more lives by you sharing this and then me using it. Now I'm spreading it to like 200 plus kids by me sharing what I did. And then all of a sudden, all of these teachers take it. They're sharing it to who knows how many kids. So it's just that like ripple, like creating, quality phys ed.
Yep. But you made the choice. You made the choice to step out of your comfort zone. You know what? As difficult as that is for educators, and it is whether you're teaching PE, history, science, social studies, math, it doesn't matter. Educators know what they know, and they know it damn well, okay? But what they don't know is absolutely mind-blowing, okay? And once you step out and create a PLN and gain momentum, all of a sudden, you just go to another stratosphere. And that's what I love about connecting with shows like this, talking with people like you, having Chris by my side who pushes me beyond my beliefs, sometimes beyond my comfort zone. Those are win-win circumstances. Not for us, but for the kids we teach. The kids we teach deserve that. So now, here's a great question for you if you reflect back. Tell me about the educator in your life that had the biggest impact on you becoming who you are right now, that risk taker, that person who's an innovator, a game changer, someone who's got mojo, moxie, that comes in every day and makes a difference for kids. Now I'll step back.
Listen, I've been blessed with so many people. From family members to coaches, to professors who I've come into contact with at my university. I love my professors at my university. The moment that I first saw that it's so easy to throw in the towel and become a throw at the ball phys ed teacher, I never wanted to disappoint my professors. I'm like, remember so-and-so? Okay, she mentioned this about assessment. We've got to keep going. We've got it. That's how powerful and impactful they were in my lives. And any chance I get to thank them, whether I'm sending them a check-in text or, hey, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, whatever it is, I always make sure that they know that they made an imprint or an impact in my life. Now, one person that I always go back to is my cooperating teacher, Perry Berkler from Bonita Unified, Ramona Junior High School. She was incredible. I loved every second, the whole 20 weeks I was with her was amazing. Her way of just building those relationships with her kids, to just every little detail, making a kid smile by just commenting, "Hey, did you cut your hair?" And the kid's face lit up like, "Oh my gosh, someone noticed."
Yeah.
To her attention to detail and reflection. I think this is where I got reflective. It was her. She was the one who had a notebook every day after school. She would spend time writing in her notebook on what she did, and I think that's where I got it from. I now have 7 notebooks of just pure reflection every day. I spend 15 to 30 minutes reflecting in that book because of Harry Berkler. Until this day, I keep in contact with her and say thank you. And funny enough, I was presenting on Flipgrid the other day for my state organization online, and she showed up in the chat box. And
Awesome.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop my presentation right now. Miss Berkler, you are the reason I'm here. You are the reason I keep growing. You are
awesome.
the reason. So she's been, gosh, everything. I still, in my lanyard, she gave me a little like keychain. They were the Vikings, and it had a little Viking on it. Till this day, in my lanyard, and it's all scratched up. You can't even see the Viking anymore, but it's on my lanyard because I'm going to carry her with me for the rest of my life. She's amazing, and she was that one person, and she will continue to be that one person for the rest of my days.
So pay that forward, though. Pay it forward in every way you can, because that plants seeds for the next generation to come through. It really does. So I think that's great that you stopped the show to recognize her. That just shows you get the bigger picture.
Yeah. Stephanie, wow. Thanks so much for your time tonight. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for validating all the efforts that all the educators are going through right now to help make remote learning an engaging experience, whether it's a math teacher, a science teacher, a physical educator, an art educator, a music educator. Everyone is trying to maintain connections and move kids forward. And you gave some tremendous examples tonight of why you are Middle Marvel number 24. You really do have a tremendous amount to give and a tremendous opportunity to influence other educators to take their game to the next level. I really appreciated you being here tonight. Dean,
I'm going to say, I'm going to just chime in because I always do. All right, your homework, Stephanie, is this. We want you to nominate another Middle Marvel from that big state of California, because I know that California's loaded with Stephanies out there. You guys are rock stars. So what we want to do is we love to polish up and shine what you do, because as administrators, it's our job to make sure we help create the shine that you guys need to be recognized for what you do every day. Teachers are amazing. They are the biggest resource that we have. And without people doing it the way that you're doing it, we don't have our jobs. Everything falls apart. So kudos to you. Don't stop. Don't look back. Put that pedal to the floor. And that's a big state you're going to drive in, okay? Okay, going from the top to the bottom, that's going to take you a couple of days. But I know there are people in California that we can reach out and do the same thing. Please continue with what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. We call ourselves the Cali Crew. Hashtag Cali Crew. I've got plenty of them out there. We come in packs. We come in strong, and we show up in numbers for sure.
Don't stop. Hey, you're part of the Unlock the Middle family now, Middle Marvel. So now you're going to get text messages from me. I'm going to keep blowing up your phone, telling you you're doing great things, and I'm going to get you to share out with the 24 other Middle Marvels that we have. So again, thanks so much for tonight. We greatly appreciate you and what you do every day.
No. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and keep it pushing. Keep your physical literacy up. Again, we're trying to be confident and competent movers for the rest of our lives. Okay, so keep it up, everyone.
Love it. Chris, take us home.
Those are the best parting words that we've had yet on our Middle Marvel segment, let alone the Unlock the Middle video cast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We hope you're enjoying this either live or watching us on replay. Friday afternoon, we've got a Navigating Leadership segment coming your way. And then on Sunday night, our flagship video cast, Unlock the Middle. Tremendous guest lined up for you, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We can't wait to get into your device and come at you live. Be well, be strong, be safe, and always keep on chugging, everybody.